1 2 1 2. Test, yeah. Test, 1 2 1 2. Test, 1 2 1 2. Test, 1 2. And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, game 2 of our doubleheader here, set to get started. The Northwest Florida Raider men going to take on the Tallahassee Eagles in a last home game of the season for these Northwest Florida State men. I'm Jake Mitchell. He's John Lavin. We join you live from Raider Arena in a game that we just watched the women clinch a conference championship. We now see a men's team that's in a very different position. They have yet to win a conference game, and they're at the last conference home game. What do you say to a team if you're in this position, John? If you're in a position where you've been losing a bunch and you're now at the end of the season, what are your answers as a coach? What are you saying to this team?
Well, obviously it didn't work out the way they wanted to. They wanted to have a successful season, and there's a number of ways you can decide a successful season, but what they need to do is look around this crowd. This crowd could have packed it in after the women won their conference championship, went home, and got ready for a long weekend. But they're here to continue support of these young men. So that's your motivation right now. You're playing for your fans, and you're playing for the tradition that Northwest Florida State has established and the program that's been kind of handed to you over the last 10, 15 years, really. So I think they come out and they play as hard as they can. And they, nobody wants to go over. You want to try to get that first win. So there's a lot of motivating factors that these young men are going through tonight. And I imagine they're going to come out strong and play hard. Tallahassee, I don't know if they're still in the picture, if they've got state tournament hopes. But I know the Panhandle Conference is really up in the air. Gulf Coast has had a great year. Pensacola has been much improved from last year. So, I think not much you have to sell for them to come out and play tonight.
The 7-2 mark for Tallahassee in the conference. Has them currently slotted in first place. Behind them, Gulf Coast at 7-3. So if the Raiders were to grab their first conference victory tonight, it would put Tallahassee back tied with Gulf Coast, barring tiebreakers. But your starting lineup tonight for the Raiders: number 3, Marseille Caston; number 5, Jordan Smith; number 4, Seth Milner; number 1, Shaq Barrett; and number 42, Anthony Mason. On the Eagles side, number 5, Caleb Stevens; number 13, Eric Hester; number 33, Riffin Michael; number 11, Tariq Silver; and number 3, L. Ellis round out the starting 5 for the Eagles as we get underway here. Seth Milner with the ball at the top of the key. Now over to Marseille Caston. Looking inside to Mason. Mason backing down on Michael.
Never really want to pass the ball to a player going away from the rim. And you're always going to be a turnover, or you're going to put that player in a bad position. Yeah, Tallahassee, they've got everything to gain with a win here.
Tallahassee in the Kentucky blue sort of checkerboard down the trim uniforms, and a turnover there for the Raiders. Caston, no good. Mason tried to gather the rebound. Ball will stay with the Raiders. Appear to go off of 33, Riffin Michael there. He had his hands up. Shaq Barrett now with possession. He kicks to Seth Milner.
And Jake, the one thing about the Raiders is they've been in just about every game. I mean, they've had a couple where they've let them get away from them, but they just have got to learn how to win. And I think the inexperience right now of is a little much when the game is on the line. But they've been in not every single game. They've been in a lot of games. They just haven't been able to close.
Smith, the rebound, and his leaping ability is just outstanding. So a stoppage here, timeout for the Raiders. About a minute in, and you mentioned that this team is never out of a game, and I mentioned that last week when we were here that we've seen this team do a lot of things, but the one thing we haven't seen this team do is quit, especially at home. As you mentioned, there's been the game here and there on the road that's gotten away from them, but you look at the score difference. We at Emerald Coast TV had a chance to broadcast. It started with a double overtime loss. John, you were here for that one on the 4th. A 10-point loss to Tallahassee last time on the 11th of January that got away from them late, and Tallahassee shot the lights out of the arena that night. A 7-point loss to Chipola, a 5-point loss to Pensacola, and a 4-point loss to Gulf Coast 1 week ago today. So this team at home, they play you tight. It's just they haven't been able to finish off a win yet. Milner's trapped there, kicks to Barrett. 11 on the shot clock, a whistle there, a travel on Barrett.
Tallahassee comes out with an aggressive type trapping defense out of the zone and just kind of caught Northwest off guard coming out of the timeout. You got to be a little bit better prepared for that. But
it was something a week ago that Gulf Coast did a lot, and it was they didn't necessarily apply pressure. A lot of it was that token pressure, but eventually it kind of wore down the Raider offense a little bit and got to a point where, when you have to overthink every single possession and break, just fights inside for a basket, and he scores one over Anthony Mason.
Yeah, this is a little better matchup than Gulf Coast. I think they match up a little bit better with Tallahassee because of the guard play. They're not going to be having to.
Nice dish there from Shaq Barrett inside to Mason.
Gulf Coast just gets you a whole different type of game. The speed of the game, it just goes probably 3 times more than what you're used to. And I think some of the Raiders got in foul trouble, and they just didn't have the guard play that particular night to match up with that. I think they can match up a little bit better with Tallahassee tonight.
Mason sinks the free throw there. So I mentioned the guard play. It was Shaq Barrett who made that nice pass inside to Mason to set up the and one there. Now L. Ellis working on Shaq Barrett. Now over to 13 Eric Hester. Back to Ellis now left wing. Cuts outside to Tariq Silver. Now inside, and looked like Caston might have had a hold of number 5 Calix Stevens there.
Yeah, that was just an easy call for the official. He just kind of wrapped him up in a WWF move.
Right now with the lineups on the floor, looks like the Raiders are going to have one size mismatch somewhere on the court. A travel there by Tariq Silver. But whoever Caston is on, because this Tallahassee lineup has some height. So whoever Caston gets matched up with, it seems like is going to be a size mismatch that they may want to attack.
Yeah, they're going to have some mismatches for sure.
Caston dribbling, working around, gives to Smith. Smith up in the air, can't convert. Mason comes down with the rebound, a whistle, though there on Mason. Ball will return to the Eagles.
Mason cleared out to try to get that rebound, but just a wild drive by Smith, a little out of control. I don't know if it kind of ages me a little bit, but it looked like George Gervin. I remember if you remember, George Gervin would come through with a swooping, or Connie Hawkins with a swooping little underneath type of shot.
Know the names, but I can give you that.
The Iceman. George Gervin, the Iceman.
No, I'm a student of history. Big Pistol Pete guy. Shaq Barrett dribbling up. He hands to Caston. Caston over to Mason now. Mason works inside, and he earns another basket.
Yeah, that's just a man move right there by Anthony Mason. Just powers through, play through contact. Caston got caught in the air and was lucky that Mason bailed him out with the catch.
Whistle there. Ball will stay with the Raiders. Number 14, Thierno Kita, set to check in for the Raiders. He'll sub in for number 3, Marseille Caston. And mentioning Caston, mentioned that Tallahassee in certain lineup configurations is going to have the size advantage, but the athleticism of Marseille Caston is where the Raiders are going to hope to make up for those mismatches. Silver is good from the right wing on that three.
Wow, that really looked good. And great defensive transition back. I mean, they sprint back after the ball goes through the net.
Mason pulls up mid-range. Anthony Mason, no good. Maybe not the shot you're looking for on that possession?
No, but, you know, I think Mason might not be their best player, but he's their most important player. And you have to establish him on the offensive end.
Kita on the defense there. It was 22 DeAndre Golston who's checked in for the Eagles, but it was Stevens on the basket there. Barrett will bring it up, and Indrik Sunelik set to check in for the Raiders. Jordan Guest ready to come in for the Eagles. Jordan Smith now working on Stevens as opposite number 5. Off the Mason screen, Smith back to Kita. He'll pull up from the left wing. You know, Kita no good, he's long on that one.
That was a possession where the Raiders really needed a score or a decent, better shot than that.
Ellis working on Shaq Barrett now, just over 5 minutes gone in this first half of basketball, final regular season home game for the Raiders. Long on the three is Ellis, so neither team shooting the ball particularly well early on. Barrett thought about pulling up, he'll drive, kicks to Milner,
Kick it, one more.
Knocks down the mid-range jump shot, so got him to bite on the pump fake.
Milner with a good shot, but he could have used one more pass to kick it to the corner for the corner shot.
Ellis, working on Milner, kicks inside to Golston. Golston to Stevens, a nice look there from Golston, and Stevens able to just drop the ball into the basket. Kita hands to Seth Milner. Milner working on Stevens. Now Smith, he's going to pull up from the right wing. He's short on that one. Golston gathers the rebound. Smith didn't find anything on that three. Ellis kicks to Stevens.
I would really like them to establish Mason, just like the Lady Raiders in the first game, where they really established going inside to Peoples and giving her touches. They really need to do the same thing with Mason. And Mason may not shoot it, but at least he gets a touch in there, and maybe you can play inside out.
Shaq Barrett hands to Jordan Smith, now over to Indrik Sunelik. Off the Mason screen. Nothing there. He'll kick out to Milner. Milner gives to Smith. Now Milner in the corner, 6 on the shot clock. Milner gonna pull up, turns around, he's short. Gathered by Golston. Golston gives to Guest. Now Ellis working it up, Tariq Silver, he'll pull up. No thought about pulling up on the corner. Kicks cross court to Golston. Golston will take all the way. Golston long though, and gathers his own rebound.